Well, see, we talked about a lot of things over these conversations over this time frame, even over our lives. But when we get into how we define things, and one of the key things is one of the things that what I like to think about is what is happiness to myself or to me. You know, a lot of times, because this is how I define myself. You may not see me this way, but this is how I define myself.
Don't do that.
No, what you mean? Don't do that.
Don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Because I've told you time and time again, I see you better than you see yourself.
Probably so. Sometimes.
Okay, so don't do that. But go ahead. I'll let you finish.
The way I define happiness to myself is how well I can make others around me feel happy. I'm happy doing for people. I'm happy being in that role of a provider, of a problem solver sometimes, or just somebody where you can lean on in a troubled conversation or a time of need. So happiness to me is defined, within that, and also defined with the family and how well my family is doing. So it's not so much about my own happiness, because I look at myself as a man, and a lot of times our happiness is not defined by the things what we have. That's why you see us at 45 or 50, we go out and buy a new car, and think that engine is going, or we go try and find a younger girl. And none of that shit makes us happy. It's the things that, for me, what makes me happy is just the family life. And once we separated, and how I tried to define that was trying to find what the next move was within, or even within another relationship, because you're trying to measure up to what you had previously. Because you brought a lot of great things to the table. We had our ups and downs, our go-arounds and all that stuff, but overall I had happiness there. It wasn't 100%, nothing is. Right. But there were things that I looked at. Our financial situation, we were always in a good situation. I can remember one time when we didn't have money to do something. We was both too young, E5s. You wanted to go, maybe it was Red Lobster again.
Red Lobster again.
Red Lobster again.
Because back in the 90s, Red Lobster was it.
Red Lobster was it. And you came to me, you said, man, we ain't got no money to go to Red Lobster. You start putting back $10 bills in a box. And we had a shoe box full of $10 bills. And from that day forward, we never had to worry about whether we want to go out and get something to eat. And that little bit it's the little things that can make happiness great. We don't have to have no extravagant trip, all that stuff. I can lay in the bed and just watch a movie. And it's just simple things to kind of develop my happiness. It's not some overwhelming one thing or 10 overwhelming things. It's just the little things that define it. Like I can sit down and just when my son comes over to the house, which we rarely see him now, but when he comes over to the house, we sit there and watch videos together, and we talk and we reminisce, and we come, Dad, what about football season? We do that, and just those little things make me happy.
And but I also, and I respect that, and I see that, because I'm the same way at this point, right? There's a lot of things that I'm just happy when I can do, dress up and go out and have brunch, like for real, like or when the kids come by, or when I cook, or there's a holiday or whatever. However, we're also speaking from people in our 50s, right? When we were in our 20s and our 30s, happiness looked different. Happiness looked like we didn't have to worry about if the bills were going to get paid. So let's talk about what we went through with all those times. And so now happiness looks like that. Why? Because we are in financial situations where our happiness does look better than the average person. It does, because there's some things we don't have to worry about, right? Being retired and all that, we don't have to worry about certain things. So when you think of it so we're speaking but in your 30s, what did your happiness look like that you felt that you didn't have, that you were trying to accomplish, and you have it now? So that's like a 3-part question.
I think for me, it still evolved around family.
Okay.
You always said it. Hey, Jerry, you and your kids, seeing you with your kids were just really cool to see. You know what I'm saying? So yes, that was important to me, because I look at those jokers and I be like, man, these folks really make me happy. And then but I always wanted to have this thing about success. And I think that's what we get tied up in a lot of times. We start chasing things that we necessarily don't really need. You don't need all the money in the world. You just want I always wanted to be looked at, and this is one thing about a man. If he has anything about himself, he's wanting to be viewed in the outside world as somebody that's okay and good and successful.
Mm-hmm.
But you coming from 2 failed marriages, that ain't success. You know, you feel what I'm saying?
But see, that's where again, where I have a problem. This is where I'm that person that always sees the glass as half full, not half empty. Because what I see when I see people who have had failed marriages is that you tried at love. That takes courage to do that. Most people will have 15 babies by 5 different people and will never get married. And they'll say, well, I'm not ready for marriage. Well, make it make sense to me. You're ready to procreate and bring people in the world that you have to actually make sure they have good values and be a good human.
Right,
and you know you can't do that all by yourself. So it takes 2 people. You are quick to make a baby, but you don't want to be so quick to get married. To me, it's backwards. So for me, when we went into our marriages, whether it was the first or the second, and for us it was our second together, we didn't go into it, well, I'm gonna divorce that person in 3 years or 10 years because we divorced at the 10-year mark. We didn't go into it with that we went into it with, this is what we're gonna do because this is what life is. This is what life's supposed to look like. You had your career, I had my career. You had 2 daughters, I had a son, then we had a son together.
Right.
We were making moves. Now, although there were things that did not go as planned, you can't throw the whole baby out with the bathwater.
Well, that's not what I'm saying, Sheik. I think what I would equate success to is what we saw in the Huxtables.
Yeah, but we realize now that wasn't real either. But it was. But
just
see,
listen. Just listen.
Okay.
How many times have you seen an African American family on TV that thrived like they did?
You don't. Not on TV.
Not on TV. How many times have you seen it in our communities?
You don't see it as often.
Okay, you don't see it as often. So what we have been taught to equate success to is something similar to that. Because the father stays in the household, the mother stays in the household. They fight through all their problems together, and they make it work even in all kind of adversity. Now, they had different adversities than what we had, looking at the TV show. But we had real life stuff we was dealing with. How to pay the bills from a day-to-day basis. How to struggle with co-parenting within a household where we brought a blended family together. Mm-hmm. How do you do that? How do we deal with the nuances of people that within the household outside of us that were adults, my brother and your mother? Mm-hmm. How do we deal with those personalities as well? How do we look at
and that's where I feel, let's back up. You talked about the show. What I know, that's what separates adults from kids. Mm-hmm. Adults recognize that a show takes, to make a number 1 sitcom on TV for years, it takes 100+ people to make it happen. Uh-huh. And only give us 22 minutes of airtime on each episode. Right. Although it was slotted for 30, it was about 22 minutes after commercial. Mm-hmm. It takes 100+ people to make that happen. Right. The difference between adults and kids is that kids think that's life. When I was a kid, I used to think that my life was being recorded and somewhere there was a hidden camera. So I was always performing even as a kid, right? Mm. Because I thought that somewhere there's a camera going to pop out at any time. So I had to be on it. I had to be ready at all times. Right. So as an adult, I recognize that that's not true. However, at the same time, right? What?
Look at our counterparts, though. See, if you look at the counterparts, that family is real.
It's not, but that's the thing, though. It may be real in certain areas. Most families that we saw, even with your grandparents, even with my grandparents.
Different dynamics, right?
Your grandmother was a stay-at-home mom. My grandmother was a stay-at-home mom. My mother was a stay-at-home mom most of my life, but she was a single woman that, although my father and her were married, they were never married. They just married on paper. Mm-hmm. They never lived together in the same household. Right. With your parents divorced when you were young. You know what I'm saying? And then you went off to wherever, or whenever they divorced, I don't know. But what I do know is that there was never, good looks different to different people, depending on where you at in your life.
So what did good look like to you?
For me, good for us looked like we were on the right track. in terms of like we were saving money for our future. We were saving money for our kids.
We did that.
We had already started establishing credit. We had good jobs. We had insurance. Our kids had some level of normalcy. We took vacations sometimes. We went to church. We did those things. So we had some type of normalcy. They had some of the latest shoes and clothes and doggone, whatever.
Yeah,
right. And we were doing this in our 20s and 30s, coming from where we came from. In other words, we were doing it for the first time for your people and for my people. And when I mean your people, I mean your family and my family.
Right.
Because what I was doing, I don't know anybody at my family that did it. And what you were doing, you didn't know anyone that did it.
Right.
So we didn't have a map. But what I do know is that when I felt like in the relationship, like I said, there comes a time when you're like, okay.
So, but simple. Would you say in the relationship that we had, it was a successful relationship?
Absolutely.
Why would you say that? Because we didn't get to the finish line.
Because of our kid, but the finish line is not done yet. We don't have to be together for it to be a finish line.
But you understand what I'm saying?
Because here's the thing: is what, like you told me.
This is how people will look at it. I'm not saying that necessarily we look at it that way.
Your daughter,
our daughter,
and I say this because I want to be specific. The oldest daughter you had before the marriage says she emulates her life after you. Who do you think my oldest son emulates his life after? And I have to be very particular because why? Those kids were not each other's. We were raised in the same. And so, yes, they are. But that's your daughter. That's my son. We came to the... So my son emulates you. Your daughter emulates me. So what I'm saying to you is that I see that as success. Right. Because guess what? They could have went with the different. They could have went with the alternative in a lot of ways.
But you know how the masses equate success is differently than what you and I see it, and which is cool. We understand that because, there was success within that. Because just because we did not, we're not still married today, it doesn't mean that we did not have success.
Because again, you can't throw the whole baby out with the bathwater. Right. When you talk about a marriage, it has so many parts to it, right?
Relationships, all relationships.
And here's the thing, I can honestly say the love that we have for each other, it never died. The respect we have for each other never died. The goal that we have for our family as a whole, for our grandchildren, for whatever, those things never died, right? Those things never died.
Right.
And if we can be able to sit here today after 15 years, and that means somewhere up in the line, the friendship never died. Because that's what we had before we even begin to anything. We had a friendship. So if those things can survive, the marriage, got it. I got it. I understand what the good books say. I understand all that. But at the same time, if it was meant to be, it would have been. Right. And it's just that simple.
Absolutely.
And we have to be okay with that. And so now, moving forward, that's why you're in a relationship that you say, okay, now these are the things that I want to bring to the table. And that's why for me, like just like you said, in an episode that we've done in the past where you talk about the difference between the population of women than it is the population of men, right? I know that for me to find someone or to be with someone, it's like a needle in a haystack. It really is because of...
For you right now.
At my age,
is that?
Because of most men that are of interest are already in a relationship or they don't want to do it again. Like, they're like, I'm done. Like, I know a lot of men that's like, I'm not doing none of that again. And so when I meet people and that's their thing, like, they don't want to try it again. They're like, I don't want to try, right? When it comes to marriage, they don't want to try. So for me, I'm not about to change nobody's mind or any of that, right? So for me, it's like, so when it comes to that, that's where it is in a lot of the men in my community. But what I do know for myself is I will never go back because there were things that I learned in our relationship that like there's just certain things even in my first relationship, even though it was what it was, there was just certain things that I took from him. And then even in between, I know what love looks like. I know what being in love looks like. I know what...
So what does love look like to you at this age compared to now? Because we have moved on from the phases of
love for me looks like...
This is incorporated into your happiness.
Correct.
So tell me
love
what it looks
for me at this age looks like, for me, because I only can speak for me, me putting myself to the point where I consider somebody else more than I consider myself. And that's something I've always said. Important. I want to be considered. I want to be considered. And I think I've said that to you many times. I just want to be considered. Like, I don't want to be an afterthought to nobody.
Right.
I want to be considered. Like, when you do things, you have me in mind. Right. And that's it. And if you do that, because here's the thing, if you see me the way that I see myself, because I see you at your greatest.
Right.
So if you see me at my greatest, then you know that this is the person that I know with this and that and the third, we can get here. Because I put everything on the table. One thing I am is I'm inside out. I'm very vulnerable. So for me, my love looks like this. Listen, I know you're going to mess up. I know we're human. We're all human.
That's a part of
life. Yeah,
right.
all of it. We're all human. But at the end of the day, I need this. And I'm going to give you, because I'm going to give you all of me.
Right.
I'm going to always give you the best of me. And if I'm not doing something right, let me know, because I want to be the best of myself, because we get complacent in relationships. Right? We keep doing things the same way, and we don't know that that person isn't happy or want something different.
I think a lot of the times the question should be asked, what can I do to better this?
Absolutely.
And, and a lot of times we get so set into our ways that we're not asking those questions, because there's something you can know. If you know your spouse, there's something in the way they're moving and the way they're talking and the way they're doing things that can make you ask those questions. Yeah. And it's when we look at the overall happiness within a relationship, you want to make sure that you're satisfied and that person is satisfied, and both needs are equally understood and met. And then when that happens, my need is equal to your need. Guess what? We have a good understanding. We have a good opportunity to get to the next level.
And that's why it's important to be with people that hears you when you talk.
Right.
Because just like you told me, for you needed me to sugarcoat things sometimes.
Yeah, it's just simple. It's simple for me.
And sometimes, and here's the thing, what you didn't recognize is that if I was doing it 50% of the time, that's all I had to give. Whereas that you needed me to do it 75% of the time.
Yeah.
And so that 25% was too tumultuous for us.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I'm feeling like I'm giving this and you're like, but you're not doing it enough.
Right.
Right. And so I couldn't do that.
With men, it's a huge point of being validated. I don't want to feel like I'm not validated. You know what I'm saying? The efforts and time and work that I put in, I want to feel validated. And I think it was Chris Rock. He talked about how a man is the last one on the totem pole to get any love. You can come home, the kids, the dog, the cat, everybody gets.
But see, that's where I want to understand when you talk about validating, because here's where I'm at.
So validation comes in support.
And that's the thing, because I know that because even when you would say things to me like, I don't ask you to cook, but yet I still cooked. You would say things to me like, I don't actually do these things, but yet I would still come to bed with hardly nothing on. So what I'm saying to you, let me say this, is that if I'm doing all the things that I think I'm supposed to be doing, right? Was it me or was it just you? Because at the end of the day, when you talk about validation, maybe you wasn't clear about what you needed.
Okay.
Because how could you tell me what you needed? Because because even when we talk about this, and I'm going to say this, because that's something I pride myself on, and please forgive me. I remember when, as a wife, I would hang around a lot of wives, right? And one of the things that I remember having a conversation with people about, one of the wives about, is if they got into it with their husband knew, don't ask for none. Matter of fact, you might need to be on the couch or in the spare bedroom or whatever, because it ain't going down. And what did I tell you about that?
We would never sleep in separate rooms.
I would never sleep, because I know me. You of sex, because I know me. Right. I'm looking at you like, hey. So in other words, it's better for me to roll over to you and say, come on, than to come over there and ask you to say, hey, would you come on? In other words, I'm not going to put you out if I know I'm going to be the one to ask you to come back. That's stupid. That's stupid for me to put. So although I'm mad at you, to me, one ain't got to do with the other. So I say this because that's the person. So I had to learn that person, because you used to tell me, Yasheka, sex don't solve. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't feel like it has anything to do with anything else. Like, in other words, we wasn't arguing because of sex. We was arguing because of something else. So once we go to bed at night, if that's what I want, then that's what we should do. However, for you, it was a complication, because she's like, that don't fix nothing. You feel? And I'm like, no, I didn't say it then, because we could be mad in the morning. Matter of fact, as soon as we get done, we could be mad again. I'm all right with that. But right now, and so that's how I was. So I say that because when I recognize is that I have to be with a person, and just like you, that understood that about what you wanted on it, and understood about me what I wanted. So I can't make you, just like you couldn't make me. And that's where a lot of times the things that are important to people, right? And for me, sex was important to me. Sex was a big part of our relationship.
Right.
And I believe that was probably a big portion of why I was okay with divorcing you. Because it was just like, okay, well, if I'm not satisfying him there, because we don't connect there. You connect better with other people, apparently. Apparently.
There you go.
Apparently.
I'm going to throw some salt in
Apparently.
the game.
Right?
But I don't think, in a sense, I always thought you used it as a tool to get over the anger or the situation. But not hearing you say that now, I can sit there and say, hey, that's just two different situations.
Yeah, it was two different situations. I'm stressed. If we're arguing, I'm stressed.
Yeah.
If we're fighting, I'm stressed.
I get it.
So am I supposed to turn to my husband and say, hey, I'm stressed, I need you to knock my boots real quick? Or what am I supposed to do? So to me, one didn't have to do with the other thing. Right?
So let's look at it from a man point of view, right? And it's just me saying this. That's tactics that a man use, right? That's because we always think about what? Sex.
Well, I'm sorry if I had more testosterone.
No, hell no. You don't even say that bullshit. Don't even listen to that. Don't even listen to that. No. But I think the deal was this, right? And a man does not want a woman that thinks like he thinks.
I understand that. I respect that.
Straight up.
You've said that to me many a times, but the thing about it is that we dated for 4 years before we got married. So you knew who I was, and I was not going to change.
See, you didn't necessarily show every aspect of who you were before we got married.
Come on, what part did I not? Listen, we can go about the things that I did now. If I can let you cut it up and everything up in the house, what I'm saying to you is at the end of the day, I had to have a certain mentality for that. That ain't anybody.
We know where you from.
Okay, that has nothing to do with it, but I still had to have a certain type of mentality. Let's stop with it now. Let's be honest. So what I'm saying to you, you wanted me to show up when it was convenient for you. When it wasn't a challenge. And so I wasn't nobody's, but that's the thing about it. I've never been that kind of woman that I was like this, and you need that woman that you can do that with.
No, I don't need that woman. So what how they say you want that chick that can be XYZ.
But Jerry, you told me from the very beginning I was like a homie lover friend.
Okay, so
if I'm a homie lover friend, that means I'm equally everything. I'm sorry when the person that you wanted to come out, whether it was the homie, the lover, or the friend,
was a different time.
Yeah, it was a different time. I'm sorry that I gave you what you needed at that time. Sometimes you needed a homie.
No, but
sometimes you needed a homie.
Sometimes you need to be in sync. Which role you need to be in?
No, because here's the thing. I only did it in the house. That's the problem. I only did it in the house. That's what you fail to realize. When we went on the streets, what did I do then?
You showed up right.
I showed up right. So if I'm checking you at home to let you know that your stuff is slipping, your slip is showing, I'm trying to figure out what's the problem. Because once we get in the streets, what am I going to do? Sit there just like this.
And we talked about that before.
You understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to figure out what's the problem.
See, there's always an underlying.
No, to me, that's the problem. To me, and I say this with love, to me, that's somebody that I personally, I can't be in a relationship with, because here's the thing. Like I said, I want people to be at their best at always. And I understand
there's no way you can be your best always.
But if I'm your partner, I got you though, dog. That's the thing about it. If I'm your partner, I got you.
See, listen though. There's no way.
That means that I'm telling you that, and I'm over talking you.
Yes,
but that means I'm telling you. That means I'm telling you. Listen, I know right now you're going through something, but you chose me for a reason.
Right.
You chose me as your other half for a reason. Right. So while you going through whatever you want going through, don't worry, dog. I got you. That's why many a times there will be situations like, where I would step in and say, hey, and I would nudge you and nudge you and nudge you, and you needed those nudges. Mm-hmm. What if I did not nudge you? Even when it came to your daughter and the things that was going on with the money, and even what if I did nudge those things? There was a lot of things that I nudged you on. Had I not nudged you on, it would have been catastrophic.
In that sense, in a lot of more instances, I would say yes. Yes. And me growing up and being the man that I am today, I can understand that a lot better than I could yesterday.
So why?
Or 10
but you're
years
still
ago.
saying it as if it's true. But what I'm saying is that we don't have time for soft feelings at this age. That's how I feel about life. We don't have time for soft feelings at this age.
I don't necessarily think that's true.
Well,
the delicacy you handle situations where can carry you. You ever heard this? I know you heard the saying. You can get more bees with honey.
That's for a baby.
No.
Okay, that's
true.
for a baby. We have served at wars. You think the enemy got time to doggone tell you, I'm going to be nice to you while I torture you? We've served in wars.
No, but you're not listening though.
I heard you. That's why I don't have to listen now.
Okay. Take it like this. If you were still in the military and you got a leader that you know he's a certain way, do you go against the grain on what he is?
I always have.
And it always causes your ass a lot of problems, too.
It caused me a lot of problems, but what I was not going to do. No, you're not lying. But what I was not going to do, because in the long run, I knew what was, listen, I only spoke on things that I knew was better off. Mm-hmm. Like I told you, we talked about it in other episodes where I say, if you said we were going to the moon and be ready on a corner, I would be ready. But then there were times when you would say this, and I knew you wasn't prepared to go to the moon. So I would be like, hey, Newmys, I know you want to go to the moon and all, but it's some things you ain't done yet. We ain't got our moon passports yet. Okay, let's do that first. So you understand what I'm saying? So I had to remind you of those things. And so sometimes you just want to just take off to the moon, like as if you could get there without a moon passport.
See, this is the deal, though. And it goes back to understanding the audience. If you know I'm that way, right? Do you make me feel stupid within that way? Or do you make me feel less than within that way? You don't do that within a relationship. If you know that's one of my
I'm asking you, when did I do that? I just want to know. I just want to know.
You just made the analogy, right?
Okay.
You made that analogy, right? So that means there have been instances where I jumped the gun on something and I don't have everything in order, right? Correct?
Right.
So if you know that, and I've been that way for many times, how do you handle it? Do you handle it like I'm a disciplinarian, or do you handle it like with some care and concern because you care about my feelings?
Absolutely.
If you're in, let me finish.
Okay.
If you're in a relationship with somebody, you got to take their feelings and what you're going to say in account.
Right.
You cannot just come in there and beat that thing down to where it's no understanding there.
Okay. So now what I say this is that when I want you to understand, I hope that we're not doing spillover here. And I say that because you and I were married 15 years ago, and I can't recall a time where I beat at you without giving you a solution. So I want to make sure we're not doing spillover here now. First of all,
there's no spillover.
Now, second of all, I can't ever recall a time where I've done that to you, and I need to know. Like,
you just brought it up.
What I'm saying to you,
so you know there's been instances.
What I'm saying to you,
we don't have to go into particulars, but you brought it up.
Is that usually when I would get to that point is after we've taken certain, like for example with the car, like, and I keep on
bringing us stupid ass car because that's one incident.
But I can think of a many, but I say it because what I'm saying to you is if I've told you, hey, 4 times, 1 time per week. I say this because this was just this is literally an example of our life. If I say this, hey, Newmys, if you don't start the car because of the type of car it is, right? And you let it sit for a month, and you know I'm big, I'm 257 pounds. I can't get in that little bitty old car. Okay, I'm driving this big old truck over here because I can get in. So I need you to crank up the car, right, and drive it sometime, because if not, the system is going to shut out or the battery is going to drain.
We don't want to do that 42 times on this show.
What I'm saying to you is that when I look at it from that perspective, when I finally got mad about it was when you short out the system. So I had already asked you about it several times. So what I'm saying, the point I'm making is that when I get to that point, it's not that I've tried the softer approach before and you don't listen. You wasn't listening.
So we take that one incident.
No, that was indicative of our whole relationship.
So your whole relationship, you failed. You felt like nobody was hurt. Nobody did nothing for you but you. Come on now, dude. That's what you're saying.
No, that's not what I said. When it came
Come on now. I feel like that way my whole relationship. That's what you just said. You said that. I didn't say that.
It was an example of the pattern of our whole relationship, because there were instances just like that. Oh, my earring came out. I'm glad you lost it. There were instances just like that in our relationship where it would be those things where I'm like, hey, I need these things because remember, we got the kids, we got jobs, I'm in college, we got our parents.
We don't talk about it. We don't beat that horse to death.
What I'm saying to you
about that one incident.
So no, it's not just that one incident. Would you like me to elaborate? Because I got a lot to tell about now.
Just listen. So what you have just said, your whole entire situation, because we're talking about happiness, you never really were satisfied or happy.
I didn't say that. No, you said that.
No, listen to what you just said.
I said that we had more good times than bad.
Many instances.
No, I'm talking about what I'm saying. Okay, let's regroup.
Fix it up. Fix it up.
Let me say what I'm saying. Please don't interrupt me.
Fix it up.
What I'm trying to say to you is, at the end of the day, when it came to our relationship, right, there were things that I knew that I could not relax in. There were things that I knew that you would take care of, but then there were things that I knew that I could not relax in. Mm-hmm. And so for me, in the journey that I was on, that accounted for more than 50% of what I had going on that I could not relax in.
Okay.
So when it came
Give me one example what you could relax in and one example what you could not relax in.
Okay, what I could relax in is knowing that when it came to the finances, which is a big portion of a lot of relationships, right? I didn't, because I knew that whether we had the money or we was going to figure out how to make the money, we was going to hustle the money, we was going to get the money. Mm-hmm. One way or the other. We always was blessed with money from different directions. And so that I could relax in, right? Which was a big chunk of what we seen as kids. In other words, finance was a big thing we seen as kids. So I felt like we had that under control, right? So other things that I can relax in is knowing that I had the kids in a position where they were on routines. They knew, hey, when it came to school, when it came to grades, what was important, this and that and the third. When it came to the way that we structure our home, right? I knew that, hey, I'm not always available. They know I'm not available. You're not always available, but we're going to come together sometimes. We're going to go to church. We're going to have a Sunday dinner. We're going to go on vacation.
Okay.
So
now,
those things I could relax in.
You could not relax in.
Now, the things I couldn't relax in
I ain't
is
asking but for one. Just one. You know, you want to go down 15. I ain't asking for one on the other, but you want to go. If she going to name 35, she couldn't relax in.
Things that I could not relax in is walking away from the home and knowing that it was still rolling smoothly. Mm-hmm. And you said one. That's one.
Okay. All right. Hell, you ran a lot of the homes. So
and that's so that's what I'm saying. So all the things I named. So as long as those things were running, right, that was less stress for either one of us. Right. Because we still had very demanding jobs.
I didn't have no demanding job. My job was pretty cool.
Your job I had a demanding job.
You had a demanding job as a drill sergeant, platoon sergeant, and stuff like that.
Whatever
Captain,
I was doing.
Commander, and all that.
So for me, I didn't need that extra stress. So as long as the kids were okay, right, because there were times where we would still get away. We would still be able to go do things, right? Mm-hmm. And so I felt like as long as they was good, then there was still time for us.
So let me ask you this question, and it's going to roll into my next thought process. When you look at this, you talked about the happiness, and you know there's going to be different levels, there's going to be different understandings. How did you get to the point where you could forgive and then you can move on and make things right for your life?
Because I knew that, like I said, anything that looking at the whole relationship, going from 1990, whatever, when we met to current, like I said, I've always seen the good in you. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have, like, my son is our son is the best of both of us. Mm-hmm. And I've always said that about him. He's literally the best of both of us. And so for me, nobody is perfect. And I don't hold anybody to a perfect standard. Right. All I ask for is honesty, right? Because I know that things happen. Right. And like I would say before, even in a marriage, I know things, but I just wanted to be the best I could for you and our kids. Mm-hmm. And that's all it boiled down to. It had nothing to do with anything about Yasheka, because I can't tell my daughters or our daughters go out and do these things that I haven't done. So I wanted to be the example. So for me,
what is the forgiveness?
But the forgiveness was because it was a big.
And the word forgiveness to you means.
Forgiveness for me, but here's the thing, I had nothing to forgive you for. That's the thing about it. There was nothing that I held on to that I need to forgive you for. Nothing. Everything we went through, we were supposed to go through it.
Okay. All right. I can buy that. So when you're looking at forgiveness, it was just a total thing with you. And it's like, hey, I had nothing to forgive you for.
Yeah, the only thing that ever hurted me was what you said about the kids. Other than that, there was nothing that I had to forgive you for, because for me, it was all part of the process. Because you didn't beat on me, you didn't make no babies on me.
I got a question for you. Did you feel like you should have been beat on?
Jerry.
Go ahead. Did you need a little Ike in your life?